How's it going? Ultra Buddies, Durian and Gunkin here for a reveal recap yet again. This one, as you can see, is focused on the new Omega to the Future Starter Deck 3. We got some absolute powerhouse cards coming out for this deck. You got to be picking this up if you're remotely interested in Arc or Omega for sure. And I'm excited. I think this week, in a few days, we'll see the new Omegas. My prediction is both Omegas, the starter deck and the one from the set. So let's just jump into it.
Good.
Ultraman Arc. It's our first triple R from the start deck. There's 3 of them. We'll show you 2 of them today. Ultraman Arc Ice Sword. A triple activate effect once per turn. Send the top 3 cards from your deck to the discard. Then you choose one amongst the cards you discarded and give all your characters that share same type with them the chosen same type as the chosen card plus 1000 BP for this turn. So for example, if you mill a basic type, then you choose the basic type and all your basic type on the field get plus 1000. It's an absolutely crazy effect, and it has solid stats in 12, 7, 12, 17. There's a lot to unpack with this one. Do you want to get started with any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think it's a nice effect we like to see. We like activates, especially with all the new Dyna stuff coming out. This one, once per turn, you can get 3 discards, help some of the other art cards like Galaxy Armor. It also, interestingly enough, bumps any character, not specifically even Ultra Heroes. So there's some flexibility in how you could potentially play this.
True.
And give plus 1000. So all in all, it's a really good card. I think you'll have to figure out where it fits in an Arc deck, or if you're doing like a Arc and someone else deck, where it all fits. But all in all, probably one of the stronger starter deck triple Rs we've seen in a while.
Yeah, I mean, the only other starter decks were the first 2, and I don't think any of them like came close to how good this card is. Maybe the Tiga Tripwire, like that's a pretty solid card. But this like Arc kind of like blew my mind a little bit as a resident Arc player. I think there's a lot of like really interesting and like fun things you can do with this. For me, I'm kind of looking mostly at just like, okay, this is a basic. The BPO1 Arc is a basic. Can I kind of pair it with some other basic type ultras, and just kind of maximize this like essentially field wide buff? So like some of the things I'm thinking about are like Ginga is one, Dyna is one. The new Dyna from BPO4 is a basic type. Even things like Blazar could be up there. I think the triple rare is a Blazar. The triple rare Blazar is like basic.
Yeah.
But there's also like options for running him with Galaxy Armor, like you mentioned, and like building the discards so you can get the cards you want. And you can kind of stack the effects like in an interesting way, right?
Yeah, even on that one, something we talked about with this card is with even Galaxy Armor, the types changes after the swap. So you can actually have a power type Arc. You pick a power type from your discard 3, give that 1000, then do a Galaxy Armor swap into something else and keep that 1000. So you can get some interesting numbers. Even if you do you do basic and you start off with a plus 1000 from one of these guys or itself and then swap it into another power speed type, you'd actually get a 17k a triple you normally don't find with those guys.
Yeah, that's very true. I think you can really kind of catch people off guard. And oh man, now I have to like rethink. I definitely like was set on this basic build of Arc. You guys will definitely see it on the channel. I'm kind of like I prefer to like streamline things if possible, but I do think if I think about playing this with Galaxy Armor, the like amount of plays essentially that you get to open up with where you put the power, putting the power and then swapping and then putting the power. Like if you have a speed and a power, you can do a swap with Galaxy and then put the power to hopefully get a speed and then double, So if you have mismatched ones, you can fix it with Galaxy Armor and then boost both of them, or vice versa. You can boost them and then swap off. And I feel like there's something to be said there about just kind of simply finding ways to like make numbers that your opponent like didn't catch, you know.
Yeah.
Like we'd love to be able to do all the like calculations and figure everything out, but with a 30-minute time limit, you might be kind of rushed. 30-minute time limit for best of 3 means about 10 minutes per game, and if you're not, you know, going fast, if you're going too fast, you might miss one of those like, oh, I didn't think about him doing a plus 1000 and then swapping into, I don't know, something else, and then he's beating these 2 lanes out of nowhere. So like having that is kind of like things where like your opponent didn't realize you could do that is also really strong. Like, I don't know.
I mean,
from my
it's
perspective, it's like, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, like, it's one of those things like we talked about with Blazar, where there's a little bit of randomness introduced. Like when you do your on plays and reveals, it's not over yet with this card. Just like Blazar scene, when if they're going first and they're Mebius, they might have to start overcompensating power just in case you hit something, and then that's always never a good position to be in.
Yeah, that's true. I guess like my other thought is, if you run too many different type cards, you might just like totally whiff on this card, and that would like not feel great.
But your opponent doesn't know that.
Yeah, the opponent doesn't know that. And then what I was going to say before too is like, I think it's great to have all these options for setting up your field and like putting power around and being a little tricky with it. But in Ultraman Card Game, where, you know, theoretically everything is like open knowledge besides like what cards you're going to mill, your opponent should be able, like, I don't want to, like, I guess what I'm saying is like, I would not want to say I'm like catching them by surprise when really like they're not doing due diligence. Like I would expect a good player to like not be caught by that. It's just that like maybe they couldn't deal with it with their hand. So something like that. Yeah. Anyway, I think I've rambled. Mostly me have rambled a little bit enough about this card, but this card is crazy. If you play an art, you gotta pick this deck up for this card for sure.
Yeah, you definitely want at least one copy of the starter deck to get probably 3 copies of this card in one box. You might want to grab 2 if you want to really lean into this card to play 4 of them, or trade with someone.
Yeah, for sure. I think you should get 2, or you know, buddy up with some friends to figure it out so you can get 4, because this card I think is crazy. All right, the next triple R from the set is Rekiness. I don't know how I didn't watch the episode yet, so how is that pronounced?
I mean, he hasn't shown up in the episode yet, so but I think you said it right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
Probably doesn't show up for another episode or 2, but
okay. Wow. Spoilers. Okay. Medio Kaiju. So Medio Kaiju is like Omega's thing, apparently. So it's a solid. I mean, it's solid. You know, Kaiju stat line, right? 6, 13, 16, or sorry, 9, 13,
not
16.
9, yeah.
And then single double effect when it enters play. If you have an Omega, you give your Kaiju with Medio or one of your Omega BP grid to increase for 1 turn. I think this card's pretty solid. I don't know that personally I'd like playing it as a double, but it feels like a really strong card. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's a pretty strong card with its effects. I'm assuming there's level 5 one of these guys in the star deck. Hard to say with Kaiju sometimes. But either way, if you're playing as a single, it's a single 13k, assuming you have Omega out there, or it's one of those late game fix cards where like turn 5, 6, a 9k single is usually actually pretty good to win, or at least contest the lane, and then being able to also on top of that, you know, that doesn't even have to bump itself. It can bump one of the other Medio Kaiju or Omega. It's a good way to flip a tie, you know, turns 5, 6.
Yeah, for sure. Anything that can affect a lane that's not itself has a lot of power, especially like you mentioned in those late games. Unfortunately, I would love to like, you know, talk more about Reckoness and Medio Kaiju and stuff, but I think because it's like based on Omega, you got to have the Omega. We do kind of need to see that Omega to really dive deep into this, so I'm sure we'll do that in the next review. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for that. Any like final thoughts on this before we move on?
I think we'll hit the Omega scene soon.
Yeah, the Omega scene will be
another. Yeah, so this is another kaiju for 5 King. We'll probably talk about that a little bit more with the next card.
True.
I think we need to really see Omega to know how strong or competitive this card would be. I think it's still one of those ones you have to play it right. If you play this card like turns 2 or 3, I don't think that's a good idea because it's going to stay at a 9 or 13k the rest of the game. Not that that's always a bad play, but it's something you have to be mindful of with playing this one.
Definitely. All right. Speaking of the scene, here comes an alien. Round 2 scene. When that scene enters play, if you have Omega, you reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, put 1 kaiju with the Medio type from among them into your hand, and send the rest to discard. Very solid scene, and it's going to help you dig for your Reckiness and whatever Medio kaiju that we end up getting.
I think this is one that we'll probably see it pay off a little more in BP4 because I'd imagine there might only be Reckiness in Starter Deck 3. There are 2 Medio Kaiju kind of announced with Omega. Maybe he'll get more as the season or show progresses. But as of this point, there's only 2, so you're somewhat limited in the options of building a Omega deck. But realistically, it'll probably be an Omega heavy deck anyways, and then Reckiness will be like your closer.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, that sounds about right. I think I hate it's like the same thing as with Reckiness. You kind of just got to see more cards to see how good this is going to be. But I think in general, this is a really strong card because when you play it as a scene, scenes always replace themselves in hand, but then you also get the kaiju card off of it. So you're like actually getting 1 extra card in your hand, which is always a strong thing. You're sending things to discard, which is what you had mentioned about for maybe a 5 King setup. If there's a bunch of Medio kaiju with different character names, then you could see like an Omega Medio kaiju with a 5 King in there, and you dump all your Medio kaiju in the trash, and then get a 5 King set up for just like power plays in the late game.
Yeah, I think this is again, like we said, we have to see if there's the more kaijus or Medio kaijus you have in your Omega deck, the more like you'll be able to hit something with this. If your deck is like Omega heavy with like 4 or 8 kaijus, you'll probably miss a lot. So
yeah,
it'll depend.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on. There's a few more Starter Deck 3 cards in Grime, the Burning Kaiju. Just a 10-16, kind of like a baby Golba. So if you don't want to go back and dig for Golbas for your Belial deck, this will kind of do half the job for you. The 16-17 difference is actually really big, but we can pretend. And then, I thought there was another one. I guess we covered it last time. Was it as a power type BP grade extra? Same thing. 10-16.
Yeah, we might have covered it.
Yeah. As Givas, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Givas was last week. Another kaiju for 5 King potentially. So you can start running a lot of 1-ups. But
yeah, you could run one of this, one of Golba, and like you kind of lose out on running 2 Golba, but you get 2 different names for 5 King. Yeah, it's pretty important actually. You got to think about the 5 King. All right, follow up on Orb. Last time we saw the Orb triple rare. We also got Orb's scene here, the Dark King's Blessing. This one is reveal an Orb card. When you see an enters play, reveal the Orb card from your hand, return it to the bottom of your deck. And if you do, draw 1, and then give an Orb plus 1,000. It is a round 1 scene. This one's a weird one. I'm not really sure what to think about it yet, so I'd love for you to start off with us.
I mean, if you have an Orb heavy deck and you just need more Orb scenes, it's not the worst thing in the world. I don't know if this is not a scene I would maybe play around, like building a deck around, because it does give you a card recycle, but it feels like a weaker version of the Sunset Wanderer, which gives you 1 for free every turn as an activate. This one does give you a plus 1,000, which is always nice for orb, but since this is a turn one scene card, it's really something you'd play earlier in the game, and there's fewer ways to capitalize on that plus 1,000 compared to like maybe if this was. I mean, if you're doing this with Arc, where you're using like the Arc triple R effect to get this out there later in the game, that 1,000 can come in clutch. But unless you're pairing this with Arc, it's more likely going to be fuel for Hurricane Slash plus 2K BP grade up or BP.
Yeah, that's true. I'm thinking about some things. I think it's nice that it kind of fits Orb's theme of like not just drawing cards, but like filtering cards out of your hand. And like it clearly gives Orb like this kind of identity with like, we're going to focus on the round one scenes. You mentioned Sunset Wanderer. The thing about Sunset Wanderer is it usually doesn't stay out for more than a turn anyway. So it's nice to get the plus 1,000. I think the kind of key things I'm thinking about for this card is that like turn two part of it, where you can probably try to keep lead on turn two, or use this card to keep lead on turn two, and then if you have it, then it's just an extra 1,000 that you get to try to go for like a turn three kill or something like that.
Unfortunately, though, remember this isn't on play, so you can't give it to the lead lane.
That's true. You can't give it to the lead lane, but it could help out some of the other lanes.
Oh yeah, there could be like so you wouldn't be able to use this to like secure the lead at least, which is kind of where like at first I was thinking like, oh, if you both play a 1K.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. You can't.
But
you
this
can't
doesn't
use
actually
it to
help there. So
that's
it's
annoying.
That's why you could get some value of that 1,000, but usually like winning lane one in turn two doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. Unless new. Actually, that would be interesting if they're like, hey, when not the lead lane becomes some sort of new effect. Anyway, that's getting ahead of ourselves, but yeah, that's a good point. It's kind of like when I'm playing Rosso Blue and I play a scene from hand, and it's like, I really wish I could target the lead lane with this, but I can't because it's still face down, or like it hasn't been played yet, right? So,
yeah,
pain. Yeah, I mean, I think it would still help. Like, I feel like it mostly helps trying to like go for a turn three kill if you have the lead, just like a little extra 1,000. But yeah. The more I think about it, the more it's kind of like.
I mean, Orb wants to run a lot of scenes for Hurricane Slash anyway, so it's not the worst thing. It is definitely usable in an early turn to do some recycling, and I'm not going to worry too much about the 1,000, but the recycling itself can help if you really need the
I wouldn't mind the 1,000
and
like later, but I think the problem is like you can't even use this to like pretend to have like a kill turn because it's a round one scene. So if your opponent like plays any scene, you're just kind of like, it's just going to be stuck in your hand for discard fodder, which is like okay, but it's not really ideal. So you would like kind of have to pair up or with something like Nexus so that you could be like, okay, let me get rid of your scene. I'm going to get my round one scene later in the game to kind of change the tide. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be okay. And then our last new card for this one is Ultraman Tiga. Power type is a power type. It's a good job on the flavor there. It's a 7, 12, 16, which is, you don't really like to see the 16s, but it has an interesting effect, which is a double or triple. When the character enters play, you can put one scene from your discard into your hand, and if you do, discard one card from your hand.
I'm happy Tiga's getting support.
There's such a loaded first sentence.
Yes. So, I mean, it's a 16K, like you mentioned. I prefer the other uncommon first. If I had to play 16K triple, the other one, I think, gives a minus 1,000 on play. So it's like a 17K on play. Or it's a 13K double, which with the effect makes it almost like a 14K on play.
Yeah.
Those two numbers alone, I feel much happier with. Though I think the effect is still interesting because you do get a card back into your hand. But you also have to pay a card, so it's not even a free scene.
It's not free to see.
So it can come in handy if you really need to get a scene in your hand, or you really
Mm.
need to put a certain card in discard for whatever reason. Maybe if you prepared this with like a Mebius Tiga deck, then I could
Okay,
see that
yeah.
being handy, where you want to get your Champion of Fierce Fight back in a hand, and you need a level 3 specifically Mebius in discard.
Mm.
Sometimes you don't have that card yet that discard something for a bump, or you don't
Yeah.
want to waste that effect because you didn't need it that turn.
Yeah.
So like I can imagine situations where you could use it, but I have a hard time justifying them compared to like some existing options. So that's
I think
where
that
I
makes
feel
sense.
on this.
To me, this card feels like it's made for like some super cheeser Tiga Dyna like wombo combo setup where like um, you use Legend of Stone, and then you have this one in play, and then you like swap it off to like the +1000 or
Mhm.
or you swap it to like the starter deck Tiga, and then you kill the Legend of Stone with Dyna, and then make it a triple, and then the
Mhm.
next turn you have this guy back in your hand, so you can play a double, and then grab the Legend of Stone from your discard, but
Mhm.
then you need another one in your hand to like play it, and like
Yeah,
so you
no.
need like it's just like too many working pieces, but like I could kind of see that like combo basically coming together
Mhm.
at some point. Um,
I think that
that's
what
the best I
holds us
got.
back. Yeah, no, what holds us back for me is the fact that you still have to discard from your hand.
Hmm.
If you were able to like, if
I
this
think
was
it'd be too good if you
basically,
just grab the
it would
seed
be
for.
really good. It would be really good otherwise. So if it was that good, then I could really see using this with like
Oh
a
yeah,
Tiga Dyna pairing, and you're basically increasing your card advantage each turn
mm,
um, by using Dyna to destroy your scene and then using this to get it back.
yeah,
Um, and it would be really good if that was the case. With this one, having to discard, you're gonna run out of steam, so you really can only pull off the combo once. I think like doing that
yeah.
full circle is really only going to happen one time because it's an on play too, which is awkward. So
Hmm.
you have to you need to have a lot of scenes or something because
Yeah,
your activate with Dyna would get rid of the scene,
yeah.
and then your
You have
next
another scene
turn,
in hand, and then the next, yeah,
yes. So
is a little bit of a
um,
stretch, but
no, but like if you have that perfect hand setup where you have that extra scene, then this will
yeah,
keep your Dyna momentum going, which can be scary if it takes off, but like you said, requires a lot of setup.
yeah. I think another use case here is in like a Tiga Nexus build where like you mill Labyrinth with like your searchers in the beginning,
Mhm.
and then you kind of like you hit the Tiga triple, you swap into it, and like maybe you play this one as a double or something on that like new lane. Kind of sacrifice the lane probably, but you are able to like fetch that labyrinth from the discard, and then um, it should get you there.
Mhm. Yeah, it's really weird because, like you mentioned, there are cases where you get a card into your discard, um, but awkwardly enough, you actually want
Yeah,
a
you want
scene
it
in your
there, right?
discard for Nexus Triple R, and the biggest sources of milling in a Tiga deck is the level 1. The level
Yeah,
2 does mill, but it's also scene searcher. So if you hit a scene, it's
yeah,
actually going into your hand. You'd have to hit like 2 scenes
yeah. You have to
to
hit
end
two
up with.
scenes,
Yeah.
and
So
you're
it's
fine. Yeah,
yeah.
kind of weird.
But I like having these type of cards though, because they're like I think throughout the past 5 minutes of us talking about this, there's some new scenarios like, oh yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Maybe that Dyna Tiga flow is one card away. Maybe you have the Zero Beyond scene out there,
Yeah,
so
you
you
could do zero
actually
beyond
draw a
this one.
card,
Oh, there you go. There you go.
right?
The
Like
zero
there's these
beyond
new
Tiga
interactions.
Dyna. That's
Because then
funny.
you are getting a scene for free
Hmm.
with that effect, and then you swap it back into Legend of Stone, and you get this guy back in your hand, and swap it for like another triple R together. I like having these effects because
Yeah,
someone will find the right formula for them.
yeah, for sure. And maybe it's not in BP4, maybe it's in BP5 or later.
Mhm.
So you never know. All right, let's move on to our last two cards. They are our new scene reprints, which I believe also means that they will get EXP versions. We have
Yes.
Tigas for Smiles. I don't really want to read this again to y'all, but a very nice action pose with the blaster. And we have Champion of the Fierce Fight, talking about Mebius, everyone's favorite card ever. And that's really nothing to say. I really like the actress arts, and I'm excited to see the EXPs. Although, like, for the most part, I think it's like fun to see the actresses, even though like it means nothing to me.
Yeah, no, it's nice to see like the characters. I like just like how the other actiony scene poses, like especially if you've seen the episodes, you can kind of like remember what's going on in the context here. Seeing the ones, at least with the characters I recognize, like remembering the episode. Like funny enough, now the Mebius one will have 3 prints of it plus the EXP, which will probably be the
you can play one of each.
Yep. But now you actually have kind of like the full story of that episode, where you have Zeton taking down, like a digital Zeton taking down Mebius. Then the default one where he's standing with the 2 kaijus that were coming in to help support him, and then the team it was actually on the computer side supporting him from there, because it was like one of those it was a digital simulator gone wrong sort of thing. They were creating like a Zeton simulator, and then it went haywire and taking down the mainframe, whatever. So then Mebius jumped into the computer, and then they supported him by sending him support kaiju. So that's where
that's funny. Okay, that's cool. That's a cool little thing. And so like, she's supporting him on the computer side.
Yeah. So you have like the promo one is when he loses his Zeton originally, like in the or actually, sorry, that they had a digital Mebius to fight digital Zeton, and digital Mebius lost. So then the real Mebius
digital Mebius,
like, something like that. But it's kind of fun, to see these.
Cool. All right, that is it for today. Really, really looking forward to the Omega reveals that should be coming this week. And I hope you are too. And that'll be all from us. We'll catch you in the next one. We'll be cooking up some decks real soon. We're getting close to the new set.
I mean, we already have this one coming out even sooner with the starter deck coming out in I think a few weeks.
Yeah, starter deck's coming out the 25th, maybe.
That sounds about right.
I think it's the week of the US, like right before the US Open. So I don't know if you'll be able to use these during the US Open or not. But
you can use them in the US Open. There is a week before.
Oh,
BP4 comes out on the date of. So that's the one that BP4 is excluded, because like that's actually on the day of the US Open. I think even the sealed US Open technically won't have BP4, because that actually is the day before.
Oh, right. So no,
that might be the day of. But it's all within a day of each other.
So this is coming out on the 25th, and then the set comes out on the 1st or something. Okay, yeah. So then you have a week to get. I see.
Yeah. So you do have a week. You could see some upsets in the US Open. I'm not expecting too much though, because one, it's still only a week for people to try and play and mess around with a new deck, and that's, I don't know how.
Yeah, especially like Omega. I don't know if you're going to be able to do much with Omega, like the media kaiju focus. But I do think there's some things you could do with Arc.
Oh yes, definitely,
for sure. Just slap it in there. It might not be as refined as it could be, which is the dangerous part.
Yeah, that's more my comment as well. I definitely think you can make a really good starter deck 3 only Arc deck, but a week is not a lot of time for a big event to play test unless you really dedicate to it. So
makes sense.
I would be hesitant to mess around with your formula right before a big event.
That's true. Alrighty, we'll catch y'all with the Omega reveals next week. What's this thing?
Yep.
I'm not on the camera. He was like that, right? He's like what's that? The success baby meme, right?
I get it.
All right. Catch y'all later. Thanks for watching.